Hello everyone and welcome to another review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a fragrance from the niche house of Xerjoff. Yes, another Xerjoff. And the fragrance is called Mamluk. Now Mamluk was released in 2012 and the perfumers for this fragrance, there are actually three of them. They are Sergio Momo, who is also the creative director for this house, and I believe he's also a perfumer, very involved in the creative direction that goes on in his brand. Another one is Sonia Espelta and Laura Santander. So those three perfumers work in collaboration with each other in making most, if not all, of the Xerjoff fragrances. So they work very close with each other. Now this fragrance, the name Mamluk, it's an Arabic name. It actually translates to owned or property. And Mamluk was a type of slave in Egyptian culture who was owned by the king. So unlike other slaves, Mamluks were actually allowed to have weapons. They were warriors, and then they also had a higher social status than other people and other freeborn Muslims. So that's where the name comes from. Now, as far as the fragrance goes, it is part of the Oud Stars collection. So the House of Xerjoff has a few different lines. They have the Shooting Stars line, the Oud Stars line, they have the XJ1717 line, which I believe is the most expensive one, the cheapest one being the Casamarati line, and then most recently they introduced a line called Join the Club. So being that this fragrance is part of the Oud Stars line, it's bound to contain the note of oud or agarwood. But I think there's so much more going on in this fragrance. There are a lot of gourmand elements, even though the formal classification of this fragrance is woody oriental. So I'm going to let you know what I think of this fragrance and how it smells. But next up, let's take a look at the presentation for Mamluk by Xerjoff. Mamluk by Xerjoff is only available in one size, and that's the 50 milliliter, and this fragrance is only available in eau de parfum concentration. Now, first off, I want to mention that I actually don't have the box for this fragrance. This is a tester, but I do have, I'm fortunate enough to own another Oud Stars Xerjoff by the name of al-khatt, so I'll be showing you the presentation for al-khatt. So first off, let's take a look at the front here. You have a sticker with the name of the fragrance on there. Very durable cardboard. You have Xerjoff written up here at the top. It has this very, shiny, almost like a glittery finish on the top portion of the case here. You have the Xerjoff logo at the very top here with this crazy pattern all around it. Just looks beautiful, I think. In the back here, you have the Oud Stars logo. And then down here at the very bottom, you have another sticker with some more info on the Oud Stars line. It is starting to peel a little bit, but nevertheless, it's okay. At the very bottom, here's where you find all your information, UPC code, ingredients, batch number, so on and so forth. And then down here on this bottom portion, it has this crazy gator skin or snake skin pattern on it. It actually has a really nice texture to it and feels really nice. You open it up, it exposes the inside, and what you find is kind of like this foam insert with a little pouch that says Oud Stars on it. You pull this out, has a little kind of lanyard thing attached to it where you can tighten it up. And then at the bottom here it says Xerjoff, just really nice attention to detail. And as a matter of fact, as far as the box goes, if you want, you can also opt, if I'm not mistaken, to go a route where you can actually buy a coffin for the box, and it's made out of wood, it's much sturdier, but that also equates to it being more expensive. As far as the bottle goes, you have the name of the fragrance down here at the bottom. Oud Stars collection has, the brown glass on it. Shooting Stars collection actually used to come with a meteorite inside the box, and they discontinued that. They stopped doing that. Here you have the Oud Stars logo in the front on this glass, little plate that's attached on there. It actually sticks out. On the back here, you have the Xerjoff logo, the XJ up here at the top. Sticker with some information at the bottom. The cap, you have Xerjoff engraved here in the front at the base, and this is actually, it could be used as a weapon. This is pretty dangerous. You open it up, the atomizer spits out a lot of juice, not the best distribution, but it spits out enough relative to the concentration of the size. And the last thing that I wanted to mention, if you look on the inside of the cap here, I don't know if you're able to tell, but it has XJ actually written on the inside of the cap. Like, who would even notice that? That's crazy attention to detail. And overall, this is a 10 out of 10 presentation. That has pretty much been the presentation from Mamluk by Xerjoff. Okay, so what you get from this fragrance, as far as the opening goes, the one thing you're going to notice is that it has an overabundance of these really, really sweet elements to it. It opens up with a ton of caramel and honey. There's even some amber and vanilla in the background with some other resins like benzoin and whatnot, and really creates this very, very sweet fragrance. If you're a gourmand lover, I think you're absolutely going to love this fragrance. It's definitely worth trying out. And one thing that I do want to mention about the honey in the opening is that it does kind of have this Bikilian back to black feel to it, but it doesn't necessarily smell overly powdery. That's one thing about this fragrance that I really think it lacks. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't have that powdery feel to it. So it's kind of like a very clean honey with some caramel mixed in there, thrown into the mix. Now, as far as the caramel goes, I don't necessarily know if I can say it's natural or synthetic. I don't know how you would have natural caramel in a fragrance, but this is overall a very natural smelling fragrance. I am going to have to admit to that. Now, even though it is sweet, and I think it's very, very sweet, I think the oud does a very good job of taming it down. So it's a really good counterpart to all of the sweet elements. And I guess what it does, it almost tells like the other ingredients to hush from time to time. It stops them from being overly sweet, you know? So even though it is a gourmand, there's a lot of body to it. There's a lot of personality to it. Don't just think it's going to be like a sweet bomb. It doesn't smell sugary or anything like that. It's much, much more sophisticated in its approach, if you will. Now, I know in the opening, bergamot is listed as a note. I don't necessarily get anything particularly citrusy about it, but it does get sweet. And then as it starts to dry down, there's something very fascinating that happens with this fragrance. And it's kind of like the same thing that I got with al-khatt, which is another Xerjoff fragrance, is that it gets a little animalic. Now, I don't mean animalic in like a leathery type of a way, or even in a musky type of way, even though it does get a little bit musky as it dries down. But it has somewhat of, dare I say, a fecal smell to it. And I know that sounds kind of nasty, and it does have like a barnyard feel to it. And I think that, some speculate it might be because of the oud or the agarwood that's used in this fragrance, but I really do think it's because of the jasmine. And I'm really using kind of like a process of deduction in order to be able to calculate that. And the reason why I say that is because with the other Xerjoff fragrance, al-khatt has a very strong jasmine note in it, and I know jasmine, depending on the method of extraction, could come across potentially smelling very animalic. The reason I say that is because there's a type of way of extracting the oils from the jasmine plant called enfleurage. Enfleurage is a type of process that they use for many delicate white florals like gardenia, lily of the valley, jasmine. And what they do is they take a plate and they spread it with either animal or vegetable fat, and then they put the delicate white florals right on top of it. And the fat, what it does is it basically absorbs all of the redolent or olfactory characteristics of that white floral. And then the end result is oil that not only smells like the plant, but it also has like this animalic, somewhat fecal, fatty kick to it. And that really is what I think I'm getting out of this fragrance. It's very sweet, but don't be swayed by that. There's definitely this animalic backbone to it. Now, if you're a fan of gourmands, I'm not going to say this is a must-buy, and I'm also not saying it's a pass because of its animalic nature, but if you are a gourmand lover, this is definitely worth a try. Bottom line for this fragrance, it opens up very sweet, it dries down to this somewhat animalic, tinge, if you will, very noticeable from the opening of this fragrance too, and then it dries down to slightly musky, woody base with a very noticeable oud note. In terms of compliments or complaints, I feel like I'm right down the middle. Just because of that animalic touch that this fragrance has, I don't know if I can necessarily say you're going to get more compliments or more complaints. I think it's leaning more toward the compliment side, but I really have to go with saying it's right down the middle. And lastly, have I worn this fragrance outside of testing? Yes, absolutely. I love this fragrance. I've been wearing it all throughout winter. Not as much as I would like to. I'm kind of trying to save the juice. I'm running a little bit low. But I absolutely love this fragrance. I have been on the waiting list for it for a very long time when I got it from in New York. And what else can I say? It's just a great fragrance. I really do enjoy this one. Definitely worth looking into. Not a buy, but it's definitely a try. So thank you so much for watching. Last up we have the rating. Take care. First up we have uniqueness and overall smell. And I ended up giving this fragrance a 9 out of 10. Now, I couldn't quite give this one a perfect score just because of that animalic, fecal jasmine note that comes across a little bit skanky in this fragrance. Now, there are a lot of other great things that are going on in it. You know, I've never smelled a caramel honey fragrance done this way before, so it definitely earns points for uniqueness. I think fixatives were used very successfully in this fragrance, hence the reason why it lasts as long as it does, and one too many creative risks were taken, which the end result of which is an excellent fragrance. Absolutely adore this fragrance, but I couldn't quite give it that perfect score, so a 9 out of 10 will have to suffice for Mamluk. Next up we have longevity, 10 out of 10. Longevity on this fragrance is through the roof, 12 plus hours every time. You're going to have to wash it off if you don't want to wear it anymore. Next up, projection, also 10 out of 10. The projection on this fragrance is enormous. It radiates beyond an arm's length for a very, very long time, hours. It will fill a room. That's why the recommended sprays, for me at least, is anywhere between 2 and 3, leaning more towards 2. It will last and project for a long time. Next up we have versatility. This is really where I had to take it down a notch. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Now, it's not entirely because of that, you know, fecal note that it contains. It does have something, you know, it does have a lot to do with it. First of all, I do think that this is a unisex fragrance. I think that this is a more mature fragrance though, just because of all the different notes, and yes, the jasmine does have something to do with it. I think that 25 and up, quite possibly even 30 and up on this fragrance, but a mature 25-year-old can definitely pull this one off. 25 and up, I would say. And then in terms of seasons, I think this is a winter fragrance. Definitely can't see somebody wearing this in the summer. And in terms of social scenarios, you could wear this semi-formally, formally, and even on a night out, but I definitely wouldn't wear this casually, not only because of the smell, but because of the price point as well. So in terms of versatility, I had to give it a 6 out of 10, and I think that that would, you know, suffice for this fragrance. And then last up, we have the presentation. I already told you guys what I feel about that. I ended up giving it a 10 out of 10. Couldn't give it anything less than that, from the beautiful box to the pouch to the packaging to the attention to detail. Excellent presentation. It's not a by Kilian, but I think it still deserves a 10 out of 10. And it does have that by Kilian presentation to it if you opt to pay a little bit more money for it. And then that brings this fragrance to an overall rating, or an average score, of 9 out of 10. I couldn't quite give this one a 10 out of 10, but it came damn near close. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of Mamluk by Xerjoff. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to shoot me a message, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Adolescence. Take care.